To be fair, it's not just hypochondria that the French do so well. They've explored the body via art and flavors, aromas, and sensual pleasures. It is, after all, the French who frolic in la petite mort, who perfected the ménage à trois, etc., etc., etc. It's Kitchenette Paris, a show about food and passions and the City of Light. I'm Dany Bells, historian, former restaurateur, writer, cook, and current Parisian with the tiniest of kitchens. Join me as I answer the siren call of Paris and eat and cook my way through town. Grandmothers teach us that soup heals, and I'm on board with her claims that chicken noodle soup is like penicillin. Sniffles, itchy skin, sad? Eat a bowl of soup, along with grandma's cuddles and listening ear, of course. Deeply healing. In Paris, I've been taking Pot-Au-Feu as my comfort and healing elixir. A gentle bone broth beef vegetable soup that seems to cleanse and revivify my form. But more on that later. I'm no expert, so don't listen to my advice, but do consider that grandmas are pretty wise and have been tending to our wounds and heartache for millennia with the comfort of that liquid gold broth that bubbles away at the stove. Of course, if your blister is burning or your prescription needs a refill, soup will not work, and you will have to go to the pharmacy, recognizable here in Paris by the ubiquitous flashing green cross shop sign in every other city block. It's probably good that pharmacies are everywhere here, as hysteria could seriously hit the city if locals didn't have access to all kinds of lotions and potions to quell their nerves about their paper cuts and vulnerability to the frigid late summer temperature changes. Parisians suffer from unique ailments that require vigilance at best and pharmaceutical attention at worst. They suffer from crises of liver bile when they eat rich foods, for instance. While medical professionals have rebuked the idea that the liver bile does not get attacked after ingesting copious amounts of butter, cream, cheeses, wine, cognac, etc., the pharmacy will carry many soothing potions to address the imaginary ailment. A good thing considering the exaggerated Parisian preoccupation with digestion. This will bloat me. This will fatten me. This will put my liver bile in crisis mode, a Parisian might publicly note to her apéro companions at a cafe or his circle of smoking buddies during work breaks. La crise de foie, the liver bile crisis, correlates to histrionic tendencies and the poetic role of bile in our imaginations, usually associated with anger and a hot rage. But belief in the condition is a hard habit to break and can be traced back to at least antiquity, when the liver was believed to be a source of divination. Plato, the philosopher, concerned himself with excess bile and insisted that it could expel parts of the human soul. Since moving to France, I've been spared of the mythical ailment, but I do recall that Julia Child more than once complained in her memoir of a bilious state following bacchanalian-level rich meals while she lived here in Paris. Chatting about digestion with friends and colleagues, classmates, waitstaff, your plumber is to be expected here in Paris. Perhaps this topic of conversation is an icebreaker amongst friends and colleagues, a type of commiseration bonding. Last time I heard so much chit-chat about bloat and poop, my babies and I sat in a new mama's circle, naturally worrying about the color, texture, frequency of our newborn's bowel movements. Chats I didn't think I would ever have again until moving to Paris. Perhaps more curious than the preoccupation with the wind within is a preoccupation with the wind without. An air current, they say in France, can strike you paralyzed, causing a stiff neck, or even worse. You could freeze into place whatever bodily contortion you find yourself in. Don't make that clown face! A father might tell his impish 7-year-old hanging from the monkey bars at the playground, you'll be stuck with it forever if the wind strikes. The air current could freeze your face or any other body part into a critical state that might require unfreezing via physical therapy or pharmaceutical remediation if you're lucky. Don't frown, snarl, squint, or cross your eyes next time you come to see the Eiffel Tower. You could be critically injured by an unexpected breeze, and upon returning home, where the wind seems to hold no ill will towards people, no therapist will be trained in the appropriate treatment for your affliction. I have been spared engaging in conversations about my bowel movements or the air currents that could paralyze us all. Except if I go out with wet hair, which I usually don't, but may have to from time to time. A neighbor will always grimace with concern and warn me that pneumonia catches wet people when a draft strikes. The same neighbor who crinkles her nose, seemingly confused at the sight of my bare legs on autumn days when I'm out and about in a miniskirt. The same neighbor who goes out on pleasant summer days of 75 degrees Fahrenheit, that is, with woolen scarf neatly tied around her neck. She might be right. I might be a reckless nitwit, risking my life the way I do, drinking broth to keep my form, wearing miniskirts on rainy days, and leaving the swimming pool with wet hair. If she's right, and I am on my way to perdition, a pharmacy will always be around the corner in Paris to supposedly soothe my wounds and repair all the damage. Most times I have walked into these purported sanctuaries of health, however, I walked out with my ego in ruins, my rage bubbling to the boiling point, and a scowl so fierce it would surely freeze into place would a blast of wind strike. Leave your adult self at the door and walk into the pharmacy here, ready to be parentified, not just by the know-it-all pharmacist, but by the passive-aggressive staff walking up and down the aisles, preying on sensitive souls who are simply looking for their favorite wrinkle cream. No, your cream is no good. Not for you, anyway. A prying shop assistant in impeccable ponytail and company polo might say to you as you try to run toward the counter to pay and flee. Without restraint, she will point out your very unappealing T-zone and the complexities of aging and acne for all to hear. Inevitably, her more expensive recommendations will follow, as well as unsolicited advice about the weight problem you didn't know you had. Our weight loss program is pharmacist designed, she'll reassure you with the subtlest look of pity. At this point, you must ensure that your cheeks not visibly flush with rage, as she will soon start selling you anti-rash products too. You have to be thick-skinned walking into the pharmacist, or along with the Le Lift serum you end up taking home, you will need to purchase a large bottle of La Consolation. All your hidden rage and self-hatred will surface if you don't have a healthy system of boundaries with meddlesome people who try to bring you down. This is a pharmacy, and it's supposed to be a benevolent place of healing, and you might walk in with all your defenses down and ready to receive care. But the pharmacy dictocrats will scrutinize your body, infantilize you, question your every judgment, and eviscerate any sense of clarity you might hold about your personal needs. Unless utterly necessary, you may want to avoid the actual pharmacist too. Take a headache. No, let's take cramps. The ibuprofen or paracetamol or whatever you like sits behind the pharmacist's counter. You have to actually ask for it. You can't just grab it off the shelf without the pharmacist's flurry of questions about your flow in front of every other customer waiting in line. Is it heavy? Is it light? Are the cramps heavier during intercourse? He might ask loudly. no matter my clear, disgusted frown, and how many times I reassure him that I know my body and know what to take. He will just keep going with his questions and recommendations. He will then hand me the product I don't want, and with all eyes on me, customers in line have just witnessed my stern disposition and are now judging me for my combative and difficult personality. How does all of this happen in the public eye? How do Madame's bunions become my business? Who cares if so-and-so decides to quit smoking? Why in the hell do I have to witness the pharmacist's discussion about the proper application of bioidentical hormone cream with some lady at the counter? But more importantly, how is it that Parisians show up to this spectacle on the regular, willingly waiting in line while eavesdropping on the intimate health reports of their neighbors, awaiting their own public humiliation at the head of the line, all in the light of day, at full volume, without any discreetness? I understand that sometimes people get lonely. The only place to find a listening ear is at their healthcare providers. But years in therapist couches have taught me that, holy crap, no one in their right mind would willingly take time to listen to all my most intimate stories if I wasn't paying them a hefty fee. My therapist deserves good compensation for enduring endless hours listening to all my crap. Patrons at pharmacies here deserve this too, for having to sit through enthusiastic oversharing, gossip, and idle chit-chat. Not to mention a bombardment of unsolicited advice and judgment, and snooping ears, and a blatant lack of discretion. To make sense of it all, I have come up with 3 default explanations that allow me to calmly go by aspirin with little anticipatory anxiety. After all, it's inevitable to find myself at the corner pharmacy from time to time, surrounded by the same coterie of neighbors and the occasional foreigner looking for hand sanitizer. So here are my 3 theories. Theory number 1. Parisians are highly deprived of nature, and they find ways to relate to the wilderness and their own inner wildness by exploring the frontiers of bodily suffering. A splinter, for instance, can become a deep journey into the unknown. As the pus and the redness set in, the victim is reminded that he has no control, that nature is at the helm and will decide the fate of his fingertip. The nature-deprived are often described as lacking a sense of awe in their lives, a sense of the grandiose wonder of existence. Perhaps Parisians have found a way to dramatize a minuscule particle of wood into an object that holds the entire meaning of the natural world within it. Or take the Parisian obsession with digestion. This is where the chaos of the natural world meets the civilized mind. Roars and spasms and winds and thunderbolts of excretions play with the imagination of an otherwise well-composed, polished populace so used to the controlled grid of city life and the underpinnings of logical civility. The body is a portal to nature here. How could it not be an opportunity to relate to the natural world when the everyday is spent mostly amongst concrete and pollution? One's own body might be the only natural entity that a city dweller might connect to in one day. Why not, then, amplify every hypersensory bodily experience? The turmoil of a pinprick, the drama of a hot blister, the menace of a cool breeze on wet hair. Perhaps it's inevitable that in the deprivation of nature lies the potential for fantastic bodily exploration and expression as a portal to wildness. To be fair, it's not just hypochondria that the French do so well. They've explored the body via art and flavors, aromas, and sensual pleasures. It is, after all, the French who frolic in la petite mort, who perfected the ménage à trois, etc., etc., etc. Theory number 2. Is this a shadow self coming to the surface where people sadistically enjoy a public flogging? To be publicly martyred for their suffering? The only place in the world where they will receive any form of validation, even if it comes in the form of patronizing scoldings, unsolicited advice, or public judgment. Where infantilization is enjoyed, where people secretly want to be bossed around, where we look for mommy and daddy figures because we are sick and tired of constantly having to make decisions in our lives. Just tell me what to do! We might secretly crave in our responsibility fatigue of constant adulting and decision-making. This, of course, applies to everyone, from Mumbai to Kansas City. The theory doesn't hold ground, I know, but it does suggest how badly we all just want to feel safe, even when safety is imparted by the obnoxious and the nosy. And anyway, I love myself some amateur Jungian analysis and a little exploration of the shadow self. We love to be told what to do by experts, authorities, and our parents, no matter how much we insist on differentiation, constantly taking on recommendations, advice, hot takes from everyone. We might kick and scream that we don't want to be told what to do, but deep down inside we seem to love having others take responsibility for decision-making in our lives. Let others create solutions. Let experts decide our fates. And there is no shortage of advice, whether at the pharmacy or your social media feed. We eat the stuff up and can't seem to look away. The shadow self-revealed. And theory number 3, my most simplistic insight, writes off the drama at the Parisian pharmacy as a basic cultural difference. Frenchness is full of surprises I did not grow up with, and I'm comfortable with that. Mostly. What really catches me off guard about how the French relate to their bodily functions is their fascination with taking medicines posteriorly. Relief via suppositories. Suppositories for fever reduction. Suppositories for headaches, etc., etc. No squeamishness, no embarrassment. It's easy, apparently, and effective, they say, and it is talked about openly to a level that most in the Anglosphere, I believe, would find jaw-dropping. Clinical chit-chat is just not for me. At the pharmacy, amongst friends or neighbors. I don't want to know about your procedures, bowel movements, flossing habits, or the ergonomics of how you ingest your potions. I want to assume that you are a lovely, delicate, tender person, and I never want that image of you to be ruined. I just don't want to know. Food chit-chat, on the other hand, I could do for hours, without discreet boundaries. I want to know your deepest secrets for making the juiciest chicken roast. I want in on all the gossip about your great-aunt's flirtations and conquests when she was a young maiden working the front counter at the corner bakery. I want you to show me how in the world your pizza dough always spins in the air into a perfect circle. I want to disclose to you in full detail how I felt when I bit into that scallop last summer, vacationing by the sea. Joyously connecting to others is probably healing. The key word here for me is joyously, without all the unpalatable intimacies that give me the vapors. If it's true that laughter is the best medicine, then let me roar with laughter as often as possible, connecting to others about food and love and friendship, and please, oh please, let the laughter reign when the idiosyncrasies of pharmacy life besiege me next time I need ibuprofen. It was Hippocrates, the 5th century BCE physician, who said, "Let food be thy medicine." I believe in his advice And I believe in Grandma's advice too. When gray skies and frigid temperatures get me down, a comforting bowl of soup brightens my spirits and sparks a sense of gratitude deep within for the lineage of soup makers over the millennia who left us their fine-tuned recipes. A clam chowder or a tangy cream of tomato soup are nothing short of exhilaration for the heart and soul when the chill gets me down. But when I'm down, I'm also lazy, and slaving away at the stove to make a fancy bisque is the last thing on my mind. That's when I turn to my great aunt's recipes that include her version of pot-au-feu, the classic French soup or stew made of bone broth, beef cuts, and vegetables. I started cooking it a few years ago when I lived in Australia, during the few cold weeks of the year when a broth bubbling at the stove for hours would not offend the almost perpetual summer vibe. And now in Paris, it's a recipe that's been perfected in my home, courtesy of the exceptional ingredients available in the city and the need to warm up during frigid winters. I'm no guru, so don't take my advice about health and well-being. All I can confirm is that a bowl of pot-au-feu will make your day more blissful and cozy, and in my book, that has to be good for you. So is sharing this soothing soup with friends and loved ones. They say that health is wealth, and if that's the case, may we all be stinking rich in laughter, delicious food, and loving connections. As winter sets in, may the richness of flavors protect you from the cold, and may vibrance and abundant health guide your days. Until next time, I'm Dany Bells. If you enjoyed this little pause in your day, please share my stories with someone you love, subscribe to my newsletter, or leave me a review. Details in show notes. Kitchenette Paris is written, directed, and produced by me, Dany Bells, from Paris with love. Music by Kyle Cox.